I'm trying to sit further away this time so that you guys aren't basically looking at my nose the entire time. God, I feel like I haven't done this in forever. I took some time off so I could help a friend write her finals for college, write some essays for her college finals and for some holiday cash. And then I got sick, and then I just didn't have an hour set aside to record all of this information. So this video is going to be a little bit lengthier than my last one. A couple of things to clear up from my last video. If you can recall, and there will be a link to my last video in the description box if you would like to use it as a frame of reference. I specifically stated out how witches use 7 principles to understand how nature and the universe works. There are 7 principles that we can apply in our understanding of nature and how the universe works. And then there is a system that we can use to understand how people work. And they were developed by one individual by the name of Hermes Trismegistus. And it spelled out specifically how, in the application of these 7 principles, we are able to conduct witchcraft. One of the principles that I stated was the principle of gender. And somebody asked where transsexuals... Well, so I brought up... I noted that homosexuals are worshipped in ancient Egypt. And for having an optimized principle of gender... And somebody asked where transsexuals fit into that category, and I just knew that somebody was going to get confused with this. This is why I was dancing around the topic. There's a difference between sex and gender. Witches view a person in the totality of their gender expressions across all levels of mind, matter, spirit, and energy. Mind, matter, spirit, energy are all planes of existence. And they're only separated by a matter of frequency, by a matter of vibration. And there is a polarity within this world of having dualistic nature, and within the polarity there are feminine and masculine properties to this dualistic nature, and they can be expressed across all of these levels of matter, mind, spirit, and energy, but they can be dispersed differently. They don't have to be all dispersed as one type. So for instance, male across mind, matter, energy, and spirit. They could have a balance, a mix of those expressions across all those planes. And that is how gender is defined to a witch. In society, a lot of people place an emphasis on a person's sex, so like who they want to fuck, or like who they want to reproduce with or have sex with. That is how most people characterize gender. And when they're attempting to convey what type of gender a person is to another person, they'll use who they're having sex with to convey that information to somebody. And so the term that I used, homosexual, was faulty, and for my side of the argument, the witch side. But I use that word because that's the only way that I could help you understand it from... That's the only way that I could help you understand is from your perspective. So, understand that... it's complicated. I'm sorry. It's so complicated. A person could have a mental gender of female, a masculine material matter expression. They could have a penis, in other words, but they could have also a female spirit and a masculine energy. Energy, spirit, mind, and matter are all the same, but there are different expressions for each. Heteronormative is all female, and homosexual is a mix. Understand, though, those words that we use are... I'm just catering to the public's normalized way of expressing gender when I say the term homosexual. So a trans person, a pan, a pansexual individual can fall into this category of having mixed, they do fall into this category of having a mixed representation a lot of the time. Hopefully that clears that up just a little bit. A different person expressed to me that he didn't realize that there was a correlation between the Masonry and witchcraft. He just thought that people who are in the Freemason Society are all just elitist, rich, old men that just sat around. And I will say that people who are initiated into the Freemason Society are initiated along categories of wealth. So usually they're the elitists in society. They're the doctors, they're the lawyers. And that's because these people are the only people that are deemed worthy of having this knowledge. Your celebrities for their wealth will get initiated into the Illuminati. So people within the Freemason Society are illuminated to this knowledge, and they are what represent the Illuminati in pop culture, celebrities within the Freemason Society with occult knowledge. And within your other societies, your normal societies in the world, it's usually your doctors and your lawyers that make up the Freemason Society. And that's because they're either blood relatives of people that already have this existing knowledge, or they're the ones that are deemed intelligent enough to receive all of this information and use it at its best interest. However, I am not a Mason, and I happen to know all this knowledge anyway, so mote it be. And that's just something that has been cultivated in my brain over many years of research and dedication to wanting to know the secrets behind those closed doors. But this person expressed, would you not be worried about spilling out information that is so-called associated with this Freemason secret society? And the answer is no. Because first of all, I've never been sworn to secrecy. Second of all, you can find any of this information online in the form of PDF files or whatever. But most notably, because what I'm giving out to a person will not, will fall on deaf ears most of the time. Because people are going to have to be they're going to have a strong spiritual background to be able to receive these messages well and actually comprehend them and understand them. And so a lot of people within the Freemason Society, or the female counterpart is the Golden Dawn, the Hermetic Order of the Golden Dawn, and then the Order of the Eastern Star. Those are the female sides of the Freemason Society. Those types of individuals probably would view my efforts in vain, because those people are people that have spent their whole lives and put a lot of dedication into going through the orders and getting degreed amongst all these principles and all this information. And they probably just would view my efforts in vain, because he who is ready for this knowledge, he who is a willing student to this knowledge, a teacher will appear for that person when they're ready, but only when they're ready in divine timing. And so if these messages find you within divine timing, great. If they don't, I still feel an inherent need to want to make these videos and give out this information, because I see the world waking up. And I don't believe that this type of information should be just kept to the elitists in society. Yeah. And that leads me to another point. My last video, the 7 principles that I went over, like I said, these Masons and these stars and dawns, they spend their life they spend a lot of time and energy going through these degrees, and they're a lot more knowledgeable about these principles than I am. My last video served to just basically a crash course to help you understand, just get an idea of these principles. But by no means was it an extreme, it was just to orient you towards the Hermetists and how we, what we use to understand, or what we used. What we use as tools to being able to call ourselves witches, okay? So backing up, we laid a lot underneath the stars to try to make sense of it all. And there was a brilliant mathematician that looked up at the stars every night and was able to make correlations between where we sat underneath the stars within his perspective and correlate them up against the personalities of people that he was in a intimate setting with across a wide range of people. This man was Hermes Trismegistus. Again, you can use my last video to help you understand the origin of what I'm about to spell out as the astrological wheel for you. So he noticed similarities in people's personalities regardless of what year that they were born. And he was able to categorize these people's personalities and put them into what would go on later to constitute the Gregorian calendar. A lot of scientific fields are based on esoteric fields. So for instance, like astronomy is 100% astrology plus math. Like the age of science, the age of scientific reason, stood to incorporate math into esoteric concepts and made them into their own field, but omitted the emphasis on esoteric knowledge from these fields. So the Gregorian calendar was built on the astrological wheel and these 12 categories of people that Hermes Trismegistus allocated to groups of people that had similarities, right? So this is called the field of astrology. Every month on the Gregorian calendar is backed up to a personality archetype of an individual, and it's laid out in 12, and it goes across the astrological wheel in units of 12, much like the calendar has monthly units that go across the wheel to total up to 1 year's worth of time, right? Amongst all 12 of these categories of people that go in line in the same order that the calendar goes, there are certain associations made with these 12 personality archetypes. I'm going to spend one video per every single zodiac sign at a different time, but I'm going to quickly go over just kind of some things that define each one of these 12 different zodiac signs. But first I'm going to spell out that certain associations that are made between these 12 zodiac signs, because there's more to the astrological wheel than just grouping people within those 12 units, right? How to understand the astrological wheel. A person's personality is made up of their superego, their ego, and their subconscious. A person's sun sign, which is what you most probably know astrology to accommodate. A person's sun sign will be expressed in their ego. A person's moon sign is how the subconscious is expressed, and a person's ascendant is how their superego is expressed. So a person's pass off will be expressed like their reputation or just who they appear to be from a stranger's point of view is expressed in the superego. Who they primarily are to people around them when they are conscious of onlookers and an onlooker's perception of them is expressed in their ego. And a person's subconscious is expressed when they're not minding whether or not somebody is onlooking them or perceiving them in any way whatsoever. And that is how people are operating when they're operating solely from their subconscious. There are only a few people in your life that will ever understand you from the subconscious or your moon sign point of view, and those are the people that you spend a lot of time with and are extremely comfortable with, and are just have let loose, and you've completely cut off any of your awareness of their perception of you. However, a person's sun sign is what characterizes the most of their personality, because most of what people convey through their personalities are conveyed with having regards to other people's perception of them. So sun signs are where these things are established. An association made within these 12 zodiac signs is whether or not that they fall within a certain elemental category. Go back to the pagan wheel that I was talking about in a different video. It is set up, the nodes of the pagan pentagram, I'm sorry, did I say wheel? The nodes of the pagan pentagram are characterized as air, earth, water, and fire. And then there are associations made between these elements on the astrological wheel of air, water, fire, and earth. Your air signs are grouped as Gemini, Libra, and Aquarius, and they represent people who lead with their mentalism, lead with their thoughts, lead with their intelligence. Water signs lead with their emotion, their heart chakras. They lead with their feelings. Earth signs lead with their senses of sound, touch, earth. They lead with a material sense. They lead with an understanding of all the things that they're taking in through their senses. And fire signs lead with their will or their determination, their fire, right? Fire signs are Aries, Sagittarius, and Leo. Air signs, I said, are Gemini, Libra, Aquarius. Water signs are Pisces, Cancer, and Scorpio. And earth signs are Taurus, Capricorn, and Virgo. Within that elemental breakdown, those signs also have an associative quality about them. These qualities are defined as cardinal, fixed, and mutable. Cardinal signs represent the months so cardinal, the way that you can view quality associations amongst these 12 signs, you can view them on a seasonal basis. Cardinal signs initiate the season. They start the season up. Fixed signs define the season and carry them through, whereas mutable signs transition the seasons and get them ready for the next oncoming season. So when these qualities are applied to people's personalities, they can give off cardinal, fixed, and mutable personality traits. And what that looks like, broken down, there are 3 qualities: cardinal, fixed, mutable, and 4 signs that fall into it. So we'll just start at the very beginning of the calendar, the astrological wheel. We start with Aries. This is a cardinal sign. It initiates the zodiac. Then you move on to Taurus, which is a fixed sign. Taurus is from mid-April to mid-May. It defines everything that is that season. Spring is the season we're on. And then your mutable signs are those signs that come in and rearrange the seasons. This would be mid-May through mid-June, which falls into the month of Gemini. Within people's personalities, they can have a quality of being an initiator, or they could be a fixed person where they don't budge on their values or their opinions, and they're very fixed. And then you could have a mutable quality where these people are go with the flow, very transitional, very tentative type of personalities. And as I spell out characteristics of these 12 zodiac signs, I will name off their quality, and I'll also name off their element. One other thing that is an association amongst these things on the astrological wheel is the concept of polarity. And go back to the Hermetic principle of polarity. You have a negative, a masculine, or a feminine. You have a negative, positive, or a feminine, masculine. A masculine energy is a give-off type of energy. A feminine energy is a receptive energy. And it looks like on the female side, negative, and on the masculine side, there's male. So each of these zodiac signs has a elemental, something that they lead with, a quality about them, whether they're fixed, whether they're mutable, whether they're cardinal, but they also have a polarity about them, whether or not the totality of their character is more of a receptive, imaginative, abstract quality about them, or whether or not it is masculine, positive, linear type of phallic energy. So I'm going to go over I'm going to briefly note that these 12 zodiac signs are also divided according to their ruling planet and a house that they represent. And houses are actually spelled out on the tarot deck for having a conglomerated. I'm not going to go there. So I'm going to begin spelling out some of these personality archetypes to give you kind of just an idea of what these types of people are like. Obviously, like I said, I'm going to have a video for each separate sign where I'm going to dig deep into this person's personality and all their nuances. But so to start, the first sign on the astrological wheel is the sign of Aries. This is the baby of the zodiac. It is the first sign. It's got masculine properties to it, or positive polarity, and it is cardinal, and it is of the element fire. So it is a very determined, willful type of sign with extroversion positive polarity, and a cardinal quality to it, an initiator quality to it. Initiator, it leads the zodiac, right? These types of people are ruled by the emperor on the major arcana of the tarot deck. These types of people are really, really good leaders. That fire makes them extremely passionate. They have very vibrant personalities. But with the cardinal, with being the baby of the zodiac, they're extremely brash. They're prone to temper tantrums and anger, much like a child would be. Some people would even go so far as to call them naive, but don't be confused, because this is just the nuance of their character. They make really, really good, they have really strong emperor-like energy. Emperor, business owner, they reign, they have the reins on their life. They don't like to take direction from anybody. And that's so true. So with this, like, okay, so for instance, my stepson, so he's an Aries. This is just an example. He prefers like the self-checkout line. Like, he wants to do things for himself. Like, one time I tried to make him a cup of hot chocolate, and I only made him a little bit because he was a child and I didn't think that he could handle it. And he got upset by that gesture, because these types of individuals like to take stuff head on. They're represented by the ram in the zodiac, and they just want to do things by themselves, and they can't, they're self-sufficient, and they have extreme emperor-like quality to them. A famous example of an Aries would be the rapper Eminem, an extremely passionate, almost angry type of archetype that, he's on it. He's also got Mercury and Gemini, which I can get into that later, which makes him an extremely skilled person with words and rhymes and poetry and stuff. But for the most part, he leads with his will. I mean, he, 8 Mile, dude, like, he was getting out of there. So that's just kind of a snapshot of the Aries personality. The next type of personality is the Taurus personality. It has negative polarity. It is fixed, and it is ruled by the Hierophant on the major arcana. This is a very, very this is an earth energy. I'm sorry, it has earth element to it. So it's concerned a lot, and it leads a lot with its it leads through its materialism, its senses. And these types of people are extremely practical and extremely stable types of individuals. They're represented by the Taurus, a bull. They're very bullheaded almost because of their fixed quality. These people, I'm gonna get closer. See me. These people are, let me just back up. So the Hierophant is the major arcana card representing this house, or this constellation of Taurus, right? The Hierophant is very concerned with institutional things. The Taurus will get married quicker in life. They're concerned a lot with religion, any social institution, or all of the institutions rather. Taurus is concerned a lot of themselves with. They're very sensual creatures. A lot of them are creatures of comfort because they're wrapped up a lot in the materialistic side of things. The ones that I know, my best friend in the entire world is a Taurus. She's a very no bullshit, realist type of girl. She likes to shop a lot and she's concerned about how the house looks and stuff like that. They're a very domestic type of creatures because of that earth element quality to them. But they're also very fixed, which means that they're stable, but with that is a lot of practical energy that comes with them. slow and steady wins the race with your fixed sign. So like they just take things day by day and one at a time, instead of rearranging it or initiating it. They define the season, they define their activities, and they're very stable with it, and they just build things upon each other. And the Taurus is just really, really good at building a very practical base for things in their life. The next zodiac sign is the sign of Gemini. This is a very positive, extroversion, positive, masculine type of polarity. It is represented by the twins in the zodiac for its dualistic nature. It is of air element, meaning it leads with its thoughts, and its mentalism, it leads with its head. And it is mutable, meaning it is more of a go with the flow. Everything is tentative, up in the air with them. They thrive in improvisational type situations for their mutable type of energy, right? The Gemini is represented as the twins in the zodiac for their duality. The Gemini exists a lot in two different modes. It exists in its body and it exists in its mind. And it expresses itself according to either its mind or its body. It's represented by the lovers on the major arcana, which within tarot readings represents a mind over matter type situation, mind over heart type of situation that you can find yourself in. And that's because a lot of the way that Gemini expresses itself is through its understanding of both those roles. Like it is literally compartmentalized the body from the mind, and its likes, its values fall into two different categories. So it essentially is two different people. It's kind of tricky. The Gemini is the only person on the zodiac that is represented by a human being. Like everything else, like the Aries is represented by a ram, a Taurus, a bull. The Gemini is the only one that's represented by a human being. These people are people that are very wordy. You'll find a lot of your famous rappers are Geminis, like Kendrick Lamar, Kanye West, Biggie Smalls, Tupac, like G-Eazy, Macklemore, Iggy Azalea, Remy Ma, like all of those people are Gemini suns, and that's because we're ruled by the planet Mercury, which is I'm a Gemini sun, so we're ruled by the planet Mercury, which is the planet of communication. And so a lot of our personality is developed around how we express ourselves through poetry, through writing, through journalism, through lyrics and stuff like that. So you'll find a lot of Geminis within the hip hop industry, and within, Lana Del Rey's a Gemini, within the business of music writing or writing poetry, like I said. They have a silver tongue. They're really, really quick with their words. They have an inherent need to spread knowledge, like as I am currently in this moment, spreading knowledge. It's just an inherent need that I have to articulate understanding to people. Another famous example, other than those rappers that I named off and Lana, to help you kind of understand this, like I just saw on the news this morning, W.H. Bush passed away, and all of his letters have now come to the public's imagination. So I was looking at the time. He started off today's segment started off by noting that Bush Sr. wrote a lot of letters to people. That was his way of expressing, of conducting his presidency. He just wrote a lot of letters. He wrote to people, and that's because the Gemini is concerned a lot with ortizing things and conveying information to people. Another president that is a Gemini is Donald Trump. Now, I'm only bringing this up because I don't want to be associated with that individual, but I'm bringing it up because this is an example of a devolved Gemini. You have evolved people in your zodiac signs, and you have devolved individuals. And Donald Trump is somebody that is a Gemini that uses his words in a devolved manner. He's always twittering, he wants to talk a lot to people, but he also has a personality disorder, and he is a devolved Gemini, meaning he uses all of his expression in a way that is not congruent with a purpose forward. It's just very devolved. So, in a nutshell, that's the Gemini. The next sign is the sign of Cancer. And this is a negative polarity with a cardinal quality. And it is represented as the crab on the zodiac. And its element is water. It's emotion. This is the mother of the zodiac. It's an extreme nurturer. They have extreme emotional intelligence like mothers do. And these types of people are the ones that spend a lot of their energy centered around the ones that matter. They are so very committed to the ones that matter. Their family members, their immediate family members, their children. And, obviously, all these people come before friends and acquaintances and work to the Cancer. It is very much a motherly type of energy. It's got extreme emotional intelligence. It can read you like an absolute book. Cancerians, they're extremely emotional, and they're ruled by the moon on the tarot deck, and they're also ruled by the moon in the naturistic point of view. So the moon has cycles, a lot of up and down cycles. The Cancer is very much affected by the moon's cycles because it's ruled by the moon, one, but two, it's its ruling planetary body or luminary body. It's the moon. But these types of people are very moody because their mood is dependent, their personality is dependent on those cycles of the moon. So it just goes up and down just like the moon does. But that's kind of they're extremely strong people, so don't get it confused. Cancers are, they're one of the strongest signs on the zodiac. Like a mother has to be strong, right? So they're strong on an emotional basis, and they're just strong in life. Cancers, it's really, I've yet to find a person that doesn't like the Cancerian personality archetype. It's so extremely beautiful and empathetic towards everybody, because they carry that mother energy outside of that family unit to everybody else, and that's just what their personality archetype implies. The next sign is Leo. This is a positive sign. So with male polarity or positive polarity, it is fixed. It is a fire element. These types of individuals are, it's represented by the lion. So they're very dramatic and they're very, very prideful. Like I had a best friend back in high school that was so afraid of the fact, or she was so embarrassed by the fact that she didn't grow up with money that she wouldn't let people drop her off in front of her house. Like when me and my friends would bring her home, like she'd make us drop her off down the street so she could walk to her house. A Leo has a lot of pride, but it can be used in two different ways. It could be used they can use it against their own selves, or they can use it for good. So a lot of Leos take a lot of pride in their work, in their roles as mothers. They're fixed signs, so they stick with things and they get shit done. They get stuff done. They got a lot of fire, enthusiasm about them, but they're very dramatic. They like all eyes to be on them. So that's the Leo for the most part. I feel like I had more to say about the Leo, but again, I will make an individual video for every one of these signs. So moving on, the next sign is the sign of Virgo. It's got negative polarity. It's an earth element, and it's got mutable quality. This is a very, very meticulous. It's an earth sign, so it's concerned a lot about. Let me back up. So it's represented by the Mother Virgin. It is a very, very, very generous sign, generous within the aspect of material things. So they give a lot to people. They're very charitable in that sense. Excuse me. So a Virgo is a very meticulous, they actually, for an earth sign, most earth signs are ruled by their sacral chakra. They lead with their senses, but the Virgos actually have a lot of energy concentration in their crown chakra, and that's because they're extremely analytical and they lead a lot with analysis in their minds, and they pay extreme attention to detail about things. Like you'll find a lot of accountants operating within this mode. So they're an earth sign that's extremely analytical, and they're good with numbers, and they're they're very earthly. They're stewards of the animals. All your earth signs are stewards of the animals, like to the highest degree that you can be. That's because earth spirits, animals, they identify with earth spirits a lot. So your dog whisperers and stuff will be a lot of the times Virgo or Taurus or Capricorn. So yes, that's the Virgo for the most part. Next is the Libra, and this is a positive polarity, air elemental with a cardinal quality to it. This is represented as the Justice sign on the major arcana of the tarot deck. It's also represented as the justice scales or justice beams, balance beams, as its representation, as its constellation representation, right? These are very, very democratic. They're very justified people. Diplomatic was the word I was looking for. They're extremely diplomatic. So my little sister is a Libra, and she was on the ethics chair in her sorority, and she wanted to be an FBI agent. You'll see a lot of cops operating as Libra, or you'll see a lot of Libras operating as people within the judicial system a lot, because they're very concerned with exacting justice. Like they want an extreme balance and harmony across all levels of life, and they are very like they're solutions oriented. They want to solve problems and get things equal, get things to an equal level. And so they're very ethical and diplomatic in nature. A lot of them are within the political climate. They're like Judge Judy is a Libra. They're types of people that are very interested in what is right in this world. At the same time, they're also very novelistic, or like they like novelty a lot. They like luxurious vacations, and they like to involve themselves a lot in things that bring novelty to their life. So like I said, vacations or luxurious type lifestyles and stuff. So it's a cardinal quality. So it's an initiator of those types of themes in their life. So they will initiate ways constantly to acquire justice and acquire novelty in their life. The next sign is the sign of time, 40 minutes. I guess that's not that bad. Next sign is the sign of Scorpio, and this is negative polarity. It's a water element, and it's represented as the Scorpion as a constellation. These are very intense, almost introverted type individuals. They're ruled by the Tower on the major arcana, which represents the Tower comes into people's lives in instances where like they're not. The Tower comes in to serve as a breakup. It shakes things apart so that people can be built up in a manner that serves their higher purpose, and that's the Tower instance within a tarot reading. When the Tower comes in, you know that shit's about to go down. And this kind of represents the Scorpio energy, because these people are very concerned with transformative experience. In relationships, like they want to acquire your whole transformation. So it makes them almost possessive and jealous type creatures. Like you've probably seen the meme where people make fun of Drake a lot, because in a lot of his songs he talks so emotionally about all of the women that he's been in relationships with, and that's because he is a Scorpio sun, and he views every relationship that he gets in as something that had a prerequisite of ultimate trust, where he bared his soul and they gave themselves to each other in a transformative like fashion, right? And that's how Scorpios approach relationships. They're an extremely sexual sign. So if you can remember the sign or that song that's like No Sex in the Champagne Room, where they say that the Gemini is going to die twice and the Scorpio is going to die having sex. And that's because they express a lot of they're very introverted, but the way that they express themselves, they do it through their sexuality. And so that's when a Scorpio will really come out to you, is through their sexual. That one flew. Anyway, it's a fixed sign, so it's a fixed quality. So, I'm messing up. So, trust, secret. Okay, secretive. The Scorpio, because of its quiet, more introspective nature, it rules the secrets. It rules. It has a very secretive nature about it, and that's because things aren't supposed to be shared to the things that other people normally share. A Scorpio won't share. They'll reserve it solely for that person that they want to have that transformational experience with. So it kind of gives them a very intense type of energy about. So the way I view a Scorpio, I had a best friend for a really long time that was a Scorpio, and we were just very incompatible with each other because I'm a very extroverted, positive type of extroverted energy, and this girl was a very, very quiet, receptive. She just didn't want to share things, but and so when we were around each other, there was a lot of tension there because she was holding on to things and holding on to her secretive things that she viewed in a secretive manner, and here I was just trying to connect with her, doing all the wrong things for this type of sign. So it gives you kind of an idea of the Scorpio. The next sign is the Sagittarius. This is a fire elemental, positive polarity with a mutable quality about it. It's represented as the Archer as a constellation, and it is, like I said, a fire sign. It's on the third tier collective. So you have your signs are all your signs. I actually didn't bring this up, but all of your signs have different types of instincts. They have survival instincts. They have instincts that suffice for the immediate surroundings, and then they have collective instincts, meaning their instincts are centered around everybody as a whole. A Sagittarius has collective instincts. It has collective will about it, collective determination. It wants to move the whole forward with determination, so to speak. These signs are very, very adventurous. They're almost blindly optimistic. It's really hard to bring a Sag down, an evolved Sag down. They're extremely open-minded. Freedom is a big thing for the Sag, also to the Gemini and Aquarius. But freedom is a big theme for the Sagittarius. They're like I said, almost blindly optimistic, but they're extremely overconfident in themselves. They speak brutal truths. They'll hit you with them completely, a lot like a Taurus will. Where the Taurus differs within the brutal truth of Sagittarius is that the Taurus is a more realistic type of brutal truth that it'll hit you with. A Sag is a heated brutal truth that will come at you from a Sag's mouth. I've got a child that's a Sagittarius, and he'll call me out all the time. He will do that. And it's really kind of cute. But anyway, so that's kind of just a little bit of an overview of the Sagittarius personality. The next personality is the Capricorn personality. Negative polarity, cardinal quality, and earthly elemental. And I'll note extreme earthly elemental. So this is ruled by the devil on the major arcana. The devil signifies obsession and lust and material indulgence, and a Capricorn, the ones I know at least, definitely adhere to this personality archetype, because they're the ones that are a lot of the time extreme addicts. And I don't want to get super into the like negative of them, but I guess like a famous example to give you of a Capricorn would be Marilyn Manson or Rob Zombie or Kid Rock. They're almost grotesque with their exploitation of earthly material energy. But so that almost seems negative. Don't get that confused, because they're extremely amazing hard workers as long as there is a material return on that work, but they are material results driven. So these are people that are a lot of times you'll see them as workaholics. They're extremely, they're into like sequence logic. So like computers and information systems. They're very good with sequential memory, like clocks, wisdom, and clocks and logical wisdom type of. That's just kind of like a glimpse of the Capricorn personality. It's of Earth elemental, so it's a steward of the animal, and it's concerned with its creature comforts a lot, and it rules with its senses. It's just a snapshot. I will obviously get into the Capricorn personality with it for a whole amount of time that will make up a video. I felt the need to like add that because it's unfortunate that the devil is like, when you hear the word devil, you can really only like, you almost automatically want to semantically associate this sign with all negative things, but that isn't what Capricorn stands to represent. The next sign is the sign of Aquarius. I'm almost out of battery. Good thing we're almost done, all right? So next sign is Aquarius. It's got a positive polarity to it. It is fixed, and it is of air elemental. It's represented by the star on the major arcana, and the water bearer as its constellation representation. And the water bearer is a person that supplies to the collective whole its air quality of mentalism. So the Aquarius is it's a very it's got Plutonian energies. That's the planet furthest away from Earth. These people feel that way too when it comes to people. They feel almost disconnected from the rest of the world and the interactions associated with it. That's why they're called a lot of the times the alien of the zodiac. They're very observant, and they have a need to know. They're a mental sign, right? So they do a lot of research into people's motives, people's truths, people's qualities. But in an interpersonal type of relationship, they're the ones that are most void of having emotional response or emotional affiliations with people and with things, right? That's because they are somewhat separated and disconnected from the whole. But that's not to speak negatively about them. They view the whole as something that they have the ability to move forward. So it's represented by the star. The star is represents hopes and an energy of Aquarians want to move the collective forward. They don't want to get involved with the collective themselves because they feel themselves separated from it, but they feel like they have the answers to how to move this world forward as a collective unit. So they are the water bearer, and they will supply you with that sage wisdom in those efforts to move the collective forward. They're almost ingenious in that sense. They're very, very idealistic people. They have great ideas, and they're fixed qualities. So they have the ability to actually implement these ideas and stick with them and create things of this universe people have never seen before. They're very humanitarian. The Aquarians that I know are the least prejudiced, least biased people on the planet. And they're very eccentric too. They like to be different because they are different. They feel different, and they like to express themselves differently as well. They have a rebellious nature to them. That's like one of my favorite parts. They'll go against the grain. They like things that are very unconventional. They don't like traditional type things. A famous example would be Abraham Lincoln. He completely rearranged the paradigm and the entire political climate from that point forward and that point on, and made it a lot more humanitarian. If you can remember, one of his most notable things was abolishing slavery. So that's just a glimpse into Aquarius. We're actually in the age of Aquarius right now. I think I'll probably spend a video getting into what that means for us as a whole. But right now, the collective, all the people on Earth are operating almost in a mode of age of with almost in a mode similar to the central theme for this age right now that we're in. And what defines an age, I'll get into later. But we're operating underneath age of Aquarius. So I reason that people are waking up to the world around them by virtue of being within the age of Aquarius. But I'll get into that more into that later. So then last sign is the sign of Pisces, and this ends the zodiac. Negative polarity, mutable quality, water elemental. This is represented as the High Priestess on the tarot deck. I really hope my phone doesn't die like at the very end. Wouldn't that really suck? I guess I would just make 2 videos, but okay. ADD. Pisces. This is represented as the High Priestess on the zodiac deck. A lot of psychics are Piscean in their sun or their moon. They've got such a they're so emotionally sensitive to things around them that they can feel things that overarch into physical and spiritual, like overarch between bridges of spiritual and physical. And then a thing to tie this in with is it's represented by the High Priestess, which is something that governs the afterlife. So psychics have ability to tap into the ether and tap into spirit, like their spiritual mediumship. That's because Pisces is the last sign, and this is the sign that represents death and things that happen after life. After we've cycled through all the ages and we've gone from age of Aquarius, we were going to go into the age of Pisces. And the way the world's going to look, a lot of the way that the world's going to look when it gets to that point is we're going to all be back to square one, operating with telepathy and in a very spiritual sense. Because the Pisces is a very spiritual type creature, because it is a water elemental, and it feels everything around them, and it feels people around them, and this makes them extremely sensitive. It's got mutable quality to it, so it goes with the flow. It's very sensitive. Sweetest people that I know are Pisces. They're so empathetic, and they're so sweet because they're so sensitive. A downside of that would be that they, like, unlike the Aries, they have no backbone. So, like, Aries will rise to the equation and be in your face with things. They're extremely confrontational. The Pisces is a very fluid, will not. It will sit back and completely, Pisces is very fluid. It's very sensitive, and it's soft. It's got a soft approach to it. I guess this was all a roundabout way for me to say that they're careful. They're careful with your feelings because they have all of them, and they feel things across a wider span. There was a guy I was with that was a Pisces for a really, really long time, and he would like stop me mid-conversation sometimes and be like, the train is coming. And I'd be like, you gotta be fucking kidding me right now. And sure enough, like 2 minutes later, that train would come rolling across behind our house. And I was like, how'd you know that was happening? They just feel things coming that most people don't normally feel. They're represented by the fish for their fluidity, their mutable quality. I said psychic. Elusive. They're elusive because they don't write. I'm not going there. So, okay. All right. That basically gives you a snapshot of all of these 12 archetypes. To conclude, understanding all of these people and their polarities and their qualities and their elements helps you implement the principles of hermetics a lot better, because you now have an understanding of who is subject to what principle and when. So to understand astrology would be in vain if you didn't understand the 7 principles first, or alongside the 7 principles. And the same, wow, about to die, totally about to die. And the same goes on the reverse. So people don't understand the 7 principles really until they understand astrology. And if you can refer to the video that I made before this one, which I'll put a link to that one. I already did. I will. I already said that I will put a link to that video in the description box. These 2 understandings, mastery over the people and the laws, gives witches an ability to conduct witchcraft. I've told you the whens, I've told you the whos, and I've told you the whats when it comes to witchcraft, but I haven't told you, I'm sorry, I've told you the who, and I've told you the how of witchcraft, but I have not told you the what. So what is it when we have an extreme knowledge of all of these principles and all these people that are subject to them? What are the types of things that we do with that knowledge? For example, do we conduct spell work? Do we conduct craft work? And if so, what types? Those are the types of things that I'm going to be getting into in my next video. I'll be covering everything from love spells to just the basics of what witches can do with this knowledge once they've mastered it on both sides of Hermes Trismegistus' work. So if you're interested in that, I will see you in that video. 1 hour. I'm good.